ASB, keeping New Zealand one step ahead and bringing you Nightline.
Tonight on Nightline, huge bomb blasts and rocket attacks kill scores of people in Afghanistan and Pakistan. UN staff are among the dead. The man who ordered the fatal shot that killed baby Gia loses his own 2-year-old child to an act of violence. A Kiwi entertainer is guilty of a sex attack, but identifying details are suppressed by the court. And we're there as the Michael Jackson farewell shows kick off around the world. Yes, this really is it.
I gotta cue that. I gotta cue that.
Don't stop till you get it up.
This is Nightline with Samantha Hayes.
Kia ora, good evening. In the last hour, a series of bomb and rocket attacks have killed scores of people in Afghanistan and Pakistan. In Pakistan, an attack on a crowded market coincided with the first visit to the region by Hillary Clinton. Sky's Alex Crawford has the latest.
The death toll is going to be significantly higher than what's being confirmed at the moment. You can see that several streets have been destroyed, many buildings still on fire, dozens and dozens and dozens of people who are at best only partially wounded. Many more will have been killed, and there's going to be a very high casualty rate from this. This was coincided with the arrival of the US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was actually at a meeting with the Pakistani Foreign Minister when this bomb exploded. A clear message to her on the first of her 3-day trip to Pakistan. It's the first time she's been to the country, and it's being billed by the US administration as her most significant, her most important visit ever since she took office as the US Secretary of State.
And just an hour earlier, the Afghan president reported a Taliban attack in the Afghan capital, Kabul. Taliban gunmen battled with Afghan forces after a rocket attack on a UN guest house. 6 UN staff were killed and 9 seriously injured. Sky's Jerome Starkey reports.
Well, I'm still at the scene of the UN guest house that was attacked this morning. It seems now that security officials are walking through the wreckage of the building that was gutted by fire. The 3-story building was engulfed in flames as Afghan security forces battled for more than an hour to try and regain control of the property, which had been stormed by at least 3 Taliban gunmen, possibly more. Officials in the Afghan Ministry of Interior said 3 Taliban attackers were killed during the fight, but they fear that some of the Taliban, if there were more, may have escaped during the confusion. The US, 6 of their staff were killed and 9 more were seriously injured. The Taliban said that this was the first in a series of attacks designed to boycott and disrupt Afghanistan's second-round presidential elections, which are scheduled for November 7 next week. The Taliban vowed to boycott the first round in August, and this appears to be the first of their attempts to do a similar campaign of violence for the second. In a different part of the city, about a mile and a half away from this UN guest house, a salvo of at least 3 rockets rained down on the city's only 5-star hotel. 2 of them hit the hotel, 1 of them hit the outer edges of the presidential palace, which is just next door. Officials at the hotel and at the presidential palace said no one was hurt. We understand that hundreds of guests in the hotel were evacuated out of their rooms into a basement bunker.
Iraqi authorities have released new CCTV vision of 2 massive suicide bombings which tore through Baghdad at the weekend. The footage shows both the immediate aftermath of the first blast and the second explosion. 155 people died in the bombings, among them 28 children from a daycare centre within the blast zone. A group linked to Al-Qaeda has reportedly claimed responsibility for the attacks. Back home, nearly 2.5 years on from the drive-by shooting that killed Wanganui toddler Gia Tutua, the man who ordered the fatal shot has lost his own 2-year-old child to an act of violence. And as Michael Morrow reports, the coincidences don't end there.
Mongrel mob members congregated at a gang pad in the suburb of Aramoho, waiting for the arrival of the 2-year-old's body.
He was a beautiful little boy. Very much loved by both whānau members. come to a shock to us what's happened.
Naomi Czech is the aunt of Carl Czech, the mongrel mob member jailed for the murder of 2-year-old Gia Tatua, the daughter of a Black Power member. Police say the death isn't linked to the Gia Tatua case and are investigating it as a domestic-related incident.
Adult male arrived at the hospital late Saturday afternoon with the toddler, and he's a friend of the mother of the child.
Is he a suspect at the moment?
He's certainly someone that we want to speak with.
The mother of Gia Tatua says it's a sad situation, but at least the man who played a part in her daughter's death will feel the same loss she's had to live with.
Now he's going to know how it feels to lose a baby of the same age. You know, you've spent 2 precious years with them.
Wanganui Mayor Michael Laws says the boy's death has shocked and saddened the local community, but that it should come as a wake-up call to all of New Zealand. In the meantime, family members of the boy are gathering in Wanganui tonight ahead of a tangi at Ranana Pa tomorrow on the outskirts of the city. Michael Morra, 3 News.
A well-known entertainer has appeared in the Auckland District Court for sentencing after pleading guilty to an indecency charge. The man's identity remains suppressed, but 3 News can now report details of the case itself. Rebecca Wright was in court.
The offender, seen here outside court, has admitted attempting to force a young female fan to perform oral sex on him after a Wellington concert earlier this year. The man says he was drunk and walking back to his hotel when he was approached by the girl and 2 of her friends, who asked if they could kiss him. He and the 3 young women ended up in an alleyway where he propositioned them for oral sex before forcing his victim's head down towards his genitalia. Through his lawyer, the man says he is remorseful and has offered to pay his victim $5,000 in reparation. He's also seeking permanent name suppression from the courts. A ruling on that suppression and a sentence is expected to be handed down by the judge at a hearing set down for next week. Rebecca Wright, 3 News.
A man has been killed in a glider crash in the Bombay Hills south of Auckland. The glider collided with power lines snapping off a wing before it rolled into a paddock. Paramedics tried to revive the pilot, but it's believed he died as the result of his injuries. The mother of the 10-year-old Dargaville boy who died of gunshot wounds yesterday has told 3 News the weapon and ammunition were locked away in separate locations and the key hidden. But her son went to considerable lengths to get to them. Adam Hollingworth reports.
News of Oliver Nicholson's death came as a complete shock to staff and students at Dargaville Primary School.